On January 30th, 1972, a civil rights march in Derry, Northern Ireland, ended in gunfire, chaos, and tragedy. The day would be remembered as Bloody Sunday, one of the most pivotal and painful events of the Troubles. It's a story often told through political summaries and military reports. But today, we're looking at it from closer to the ground, from the perspective of the people who filled the streets, unarmed, believing they were marching for their rights and their future. To understand Bloody Sunday, you first need to look at the tensions building in Northern Ireland at the time. For years, Catholic nationalists and Republicans had been campaigning peacefully for equal voting rights, fair housing, and an end to discriminatory policies. But their marches and demonstrations were frequently met with hostility, both from loyalist groups and the government. The British Army, initially welcomed by many Catholic communities as protectors, increasingly became seen as an occupying force. In the months leading up to Bloody Sunday, the introduction of internment, imprisonment without trial, deepened resentment. The policy overwhelmingly targeted Catholics. Families watched fathers, sons, and brothers taken from their homes with no charges and no explanation. So when a march was organized in Derry to protest internment, thousands joined. For many, it wasn't just another march. It was a way to be heard. On the afternoon of January 30th, crowds gathered in the Bogside, a predominantly Catholic neighborhood already known for resisting state authority. The plan was to march peacefully toward the city center, ending with a rally. But the route was blocked by the British Army, who had sealed off Guildhall Square with barricades. The marchers diverted, staying within their own community, and for most, the day still felt like a peaceful demonstration. Stones were thrown at soldiers at one of the barricades, nothing unusual for the time, and far from uncommon in tense protests. But no one in the main crowd expected the situation to escalate the way it did. As the march continued, British paratroopers were deployed into the Bogside. Officially, their orders were to arrest rioters, but within minutes of moving in, soldiers opened fire. The first shots created immediate panic. Many civilians thought they were rubber bullets or warning shots, until people began to fall. The soldiers fired into running crowds, into open streets, even toward people trying to help the wounded. 13 unarmed civilians were killed that day. Many were teenagers. Several were shot while fleeing or while trying to assist others. None were carrying weapons, despite later claims. For the people of Derry, the gunfire wasn't a clash between equal sides. It was the sudden and overwhelming force of a trained military unit against unarmed residents of their own city. In the hours and days after the shooting, confusion gave way to grief, and then to anger. The British Army initially insisted they had come under fire from armed paramilitaries, but witnesses, families, and local leaders knew what they had seen. People killed while running, hiding, or trying to help the injured. Funerals filled the city. Mothers buried sons, communities buried neighbors. The sense of injustice ran deep, not just because people had died, but because blame was being shifted onto the victims themselves. The event shattered what remained of trust between the nationalist community and the British state. Many who had supported peaceful civil rights began to believe that their voices would never be heard through nonviolent protest alone. Bloody Sunday altered the course of the Troubles. Membership in the IRA surged. International condemnation grew, especially from Ireland and the United States. The British government faced increasing pressure to investigate what had happened. But it would take decades, nearly 40 years, before the Saville inquiry concluded what the people of Derry had said from the beginning, that those who died were innocent, and the shootings were unjustified. When the British Prime Minister finally issued an apology in 2010, it brought some measure of recognition, but no outcome could undo the trauma felt by families and the community. For many in Ireland, Bloody Sunday remains a symbol of loss, of resilience, and of the belief that ordinary people should be able to demand their rights without fear of violence.